So what I'll do right now is I'm going to sinew up these tips, and I'll let this thing sit for a couple days, string it backwards, and then come back and sinew up the rest of the bow. So I do the tips first. And I'll just start off with a pinch of tendons, and I'll let that soak. Now when you have these tendons soaking, take a little bit of hide glue and you want to size the back of the bow. So I just run a nice healthy coat of glue on the back and overlapping into the tips. So the tendons will go from here, and then it'll overlap and it'll start running on the belly side. So you can see we have these tips now completed, and this looks like a giant mound of sinew, but in reality this is only 2 layers plus a mild crown in the center. So this is really going to shrink down quite a bit. It'll pull it into more reflex, and it'll bend in really nice with the back of this bow and the rest of the sinew once I add it. You can also see that I strung this bow backwards again. I decided I'm going to sinew this whole thing in one shot. So I'm going to go ahead and start the sinewing process throughout its entire structure, and we'll let this thing cure out for several months. So here we are, we're ready to start sinewing up this bow. I'm going to size it. I got about a pound and a half of glue in this pot. And we have our sinew soaking. Quite a bit of tendons. So as always, I size up the bow pretty good. Crank this thing down a little bit tighter. Now when I back this, I lay it down in bricks, so I stagger it. And I'll do about 2 layers and a crown in the center, just like the tips. But it's important to stagger it so you prevent weak spots. You don't want any weak spots in the bow, otherwise it could blow. And in between layers, you want to size it. So you put a layer of sinew down, staggering it, and then you come back and you size the bow again, just like I'm doing now, and put another layer down. And that should be good. I start off in the middle and I work my way out. All right, so you can see we have this thing sinewed from tip to tip. This is 2 layers plus a slight crown right down the center. Now this looks like a very heavy backing. It almost looks like a pile of meat was just thrown onto the back of this bow. But in reality, this thing will shrink down tremendously and it'll look almost translucent to where you can see the wood underneath of the sinew. Right now it's distorted because it's still wet and it's still expanded. But once this thing dries, it's going to shrink, and I do expect quite a bit of reflex, especially since it's strung backwards. So at this point, I just need to let it cure out. Usually I give it to 6 to 8 months in a cool, moist environment.